We've invited you to be part of this so that you can disseminate this information within your teams. We are we were newly formed and are implementing the intervention as proposed by the Nuclear Skills Delivery Group. So bear with me whilst I go into the next slide. So as you can see, what we've done is, as part of this derivative and also working with the wider Nuclear Skills Charter, we are building a program of boot camps that basically addresses some of the shortages highlighted within industry. So welcome everyone. These boot camps that we're about to talk about are funded. So that means they're funded by government. You do not need to pay for the training of these boot camps. However, there's an expectation that employees who do send their participants forward or nominate their participants for this training session, they will have to cover the cost for any subsistence or travel. Okay. It's an intervention proposed as part of the work of the NSDG Task and Finish Group, which was completed in 2023. It's in response to a finding that identified the blockers and challenges associated with attracting resources into the 11 scarce skill professions, including engineering, which consists of civil, structural, mechanical, nuclear, and systems, including project planning, controls, radiological protection and safety case, and welding, which of course we're only just talking about welding and project planning and controls in this session, but there are more to come, is kind of what I'm saying. In the months preceding to March, the Nuclear Skills Delivery Group worked with members of the original Task and Finish groups and MOD to decide on what type of boot camp we were going to be delivering. So we specifically looked to identify the skill that was most desired and would have the greatest impact and value. So you can imagine that these specific skill areas have a genre of skills that fall within that specific area and roles that fall within that specific area. So we only chose one boot camp for this pilot. And the objectives of this specific boot camp, or these boot camps, are really to look at the exposure to experience. So how effective are these boot camps in trying to bring or accelerating those learning, to accelerate the learning for those individuals who are moving from either a career switching position from outside industry or topping up on existing experience. It's not an introduction or a new training course. Obviously, our ulterior motive in this is obviously to drive the nation's capability and also increase the capacity within the nuclear industry. And ultimately, we want to try and speed up and accelerate their ability to become performing and effective from day one, essentially. So when we work together, we basically decided what the bootcamp should contain and put all the specific details together. We then worked together to identify and secure a supplier, and who I'll introduce you to. We've got 2020 on the line, who are our project planning and control delivery supply. And we have Bridgewater, Taunton and College, who will be doing the welding pipeline. And each of these guys will come on shortly and present to you. I will give you an opportunity to talk to these guys directly after each of their delivery points. If you've got any questions during the session, hold them. You can hold until the end, or if you want to pop them in the chat window, we'll pick them up and address them here. The call to action for us today, and from what I'm really asking you guys to help us with, is to identify participants for each of these boot camps. We need 25 for the project planning controls boot camp, and we need 12 for the welding boot camp. And this represents sort of roughly £4,000 savings per candidate for the project planning and control boot camp, and an £11,000 saving for those individuals who are going to the welding course. As you can imagine, it's quite significant. So we're very keen to basically have your support in this process. Following the session, we will distribute the webinar, and I will send out the participant nomination packs. So you have that available to yourselves. And if you've got any questions, of course, come back to us. Thank you very much for attending. I'm going to hand over now to 2020, Phil Jeffries.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Chantal, and good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for your time this afternoon. In terms of the presentation on this bootcamp, I'm going to keep it relatively high level, just to make sure that we get across the key points, but gives you more time for questions, because I think it's really important that we get all of those addressed. Now, when we've pulled this programme together, obviously we're addressing the requirements that were outlined by the group. That's everybody sat round here about what a project planning controller should look like and what they should be able to do following one of these boot camps. So what we wanted to do was to create a programme where it builds on like a traditional academic knowledge-based course, but kind of bashes it together with practical application, because obviously that's in a discipline such as planning. It's really important that people understand why they're doing what we're teaching them. So that's really how the course has been developed. It's about academic theory but real world application, but obviously being able to do that in a safe environment. What we've done, if you click on the link, what we've also done is we've encompassed that within a competency assessment. So at the start of the programme, we will undertake a competency assessment where we will look at the individual's knowledge and skills and experience, just so we can kind of benchmark the group and identify where there might already be some sort of strengths and areas for development. At the end of the programme, we will conclude with another competency assessment, and that's twofold. It will now allow us to sort of measure the distance travelled, but also from that point onwards, it gives the individual to take something back to the workplace and form the basis of an individual development plan to help further their knowledge or sort of identify areas that they could be exposed to increase their experience. But what we've designed, as I say, is a programme that fully meets the requirements from the group. So what I'm going to do is just take you through how the programme is structured and kind of like a high level overview of what's covered in each of the units. Now we're looking to kick the pilot off at the end of May, so we're hoping to have those dates with you in the next couple of days. And the first part of the course, prior to any taught sessions, is some pre-course reading, and this is going to be done through e-learning so we can measure progress. The idea of this is to just provide some sort of fundamental level knowledge across some of the critical areas, just to make sure that everybody's coming into Unit 1 at the same level with a kind of like standardized level of knowledge. So that's really what we're going to try and achieve by that point. Then we come into the first taught session, Unit 1, and the idea of that is to really get people inducted into the programme, outline expectations, the sessions, the topics, and kind of outline the behaviours and assignments and tests that will make up the programme. What we'll also do during this first session is we're going to break people into smaller sub-teams. So as Chantel said, we're looking for a group of 25, but what we're going to do is break those down into smaller teams that will work as a subset team throughout the whole of the programme. Then we will then start to look at key topics. So we'll be really starting here at fundamentals level of what is a project, what does a project life cycle look like, and fundamentally what is project controls and the roles and responsibilities that those working in project controls undertake. It will then start to look at the relationship between project controls and other disciplines working in projects. The end part of that day is really drilling down into the role of a planner, what the planning role looks like, what it is, what it isn't, looking at the difference between planning and scheduling and the importance of the planning role in project success. At the end of every unit, there is a end of unit assessment, and that's kind of like a scenario-based assessment to check knowledge throughout the day. And we're looking for people to achieve about 80% or more in that to be able to move forward. I'll come on to those assessments at the end. What we do prior to them finishing was we'll then set the first assignment, which takes all of that learning, and they're given a nuclear case study or a scenario, and they're to complete the assignment based on that scenario. What we're aiming to achieve throughout the programme is to mix up the scenarios and case studies, so that we've got a combination of some defence projects, some commissioning, decommissioning, and new build projects. So there's a real mix, because we appreciate that everybody here today, you all work on different types of nuclear projects. Once they've done that, they then start Unit 2, where we start to look a little bit around requirements management and scope management. So everything's there that you'd expect to see, and we start to touch on things like breakdown and coding structures, scope definition, sources of information. Again, they'll complete that with an assessment and the second assignment, which again will be based around the requirements and scope management. They'll then touch on additional units around developing a schedule and how to manage that schedule and control it, basis of a schedule, and bits around schedule integrity. And what we tend to do in this area is it's about building people's underpinning knowledge of scheduling rather than relying primarily on software to do it, so that they're understanding the importance of putting in good information into a schedule to get good information out and exactly what it's telling them. We then focus on estimating, so basic estimating, the purposes of estimating, things like that. We look at the core estimating techniques, optimism bias, and different classes of estimate, and the importance of those. Again, still here, we're doing an end of unit assessment and an assignment that is related to the topic. What's different when we get to Unit 5 is we're using this as an opportunity to carry out a midpoint assessment. So if you like, this is like a masterclass where they're going to put into learning everything that they've done between Units 1 and 4 in a kind of like practical environment. So it will pull everything together into a scenario. So that's going to be a fairly full-on session, but should show good progress at learning at that point. Then we go back into teaching and learning, looking at project control systems, change management and reporting, looking a little bit at governance and assurance as well, just because it retouches again at that point. Unit 7, we're starting to look at risk and issue management, analysing risk, forecasting, and some commercial awareness in there as well. And Unit 8, we're starting to focus on stakeholder engagement, project communication, reporting, earned value, and some root cause analysis. Moving forward, we start to then move into the latter stages of the project with project closeout and some transition management. And then we're starting to build on the final assessment or preparations for final assessment. And that's, as you can see there on the diagram, Unit 10 is all around a course presentation. And that's really an opportunity for each of the subset groups to pull together and present to the rest of the group. And we're going to invite managers into that to really see what they've been learning over the programme, the key learning points, and to develop an individual action plan of the top things that they've learnt and what they're going to take back to the workplace and implement into their role. And if you can click on the mouse once more, another box will appear. So as I mentioned, in terms of each unit, there's an end of unit assessment, which will be done in the classroom. We're looking for people to achieve that with 80% or more to be able to move on. If they are unsuccessful or they don't achieve it, we'll just work with them to address the points which they haven't quite grasped and get them to resit until they achieve that 80% pass. The assignments are based on a nuclear specific case study. As I say, we will mix those up just so people get a good experience of different types of projects. but some of the assignments require them to come back to the workplace to understand how the knowledge they've learned that day or in that unit applies to their own individual role or the organisation. So what that will force them to do is to come back, find out who works in the different departments, how is it done here. So it starts to build up an internal network of people. And the assessments, as you can see there, all the assessments are based on the practical application of learning rather than it just being a knowledge recall test, because this is all about developing planners that not just know how to plan, but it's how they actually do it on a day-to-day basis. So hopefully that gives a good overview of the programme. As I say, there is time for questions, so feel free to ask those. I've got my colleague George on the call, so we can get as technical as we need to if required. If, however, you want to go away and digest the information and come back to us, please reach out to either myself, phil@2020pm.uk, or my colleague Tom, and we'll answer any questions that you have outside of the presentation. Thank you.
So I'm just going to take the all mute, or I'm going to try and take the mute off to allow people to speak. If you'd like to raise hands, we can invite people to ask some questions.
Brilliant. Thank you, Matt. And thank you, Phil.
Hopefully that worked.
Debbie.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for that presentation. I've got some quite basic questions because I think for us, we're going to absolutely be feeding it back into the business. So I'm quite keen to understand, where is the course going to be held? I know you said about e-learning to begin with, but is there a central location, or is it going to be around the UK?
Very good question. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Debbie. So the sessions are going to be classroom based, face to face. And the reason we're doing that is we want this to be as interactive as possible, and for people to really get sort of down and dirty with project planning. So we're going to do it in the classroom. Now, what we've done is we've not set a location because we want to locate it based on where we've got people signing up from, and then making it as central as possible to those organisations so that we can minimise the amount of travel.
Okay, thank you.
Phil, am I correct? The last time we had this discussion, it is a 2-day commitment a week per participant for effectively 10 or 11 weeks, depending on sort of how well they perform during the boot camp. Is that correct?
Yeah, George, do you want to come in on that to help on the days?
Yeah, it's 20 days over 10 weeks. So yeah, broadly 2 days per week over 10 weeks.
Thank you. Fantastic. I did see another hand up. Was that Neil? Oh, sorry.
It is. I put something in the chat as well. So, but we seem to we're going to hand. So I thought I'd put my hand up as well. Just you talked about the assessments, and you've talked about the subgroups and dividing into groups. And obviously the final presentation being presented as a group, but the assessments themselves, are they individual or based on the group performance, and how do you distinguish between the two?
Yeah, I've got this film. So thanks, Neil. So the in each unit there is a test that's individual, and as Phil said, they've got to get 8% or above to pass the test. The assignments are individual, and they will be marked individually, and the candidate will be given feedback on their performance, and the assessment part is in the group work, and it's observation really, and what we're trying to really see there is about levels of engagement and kind of soft skills across the group.
Thank you.
I did see another hand up. Sorry, I don't have the details.
See Lisa.
Lisa.
Yeah, Lisa.
You're muted though, Lisa.
Sorry, I thought it was taken off it. So if, for example, we wish to send our apprentices or our pipe weld apprentices on the apprenticeship, the welding one, and it's a 2 days, I'm thinking that might be a really good idea for us because the work's on site with the delays. We're struggling to actually, we don't want to put them on a break in learning, but we're struggling to find something. So roughly, approximately, do we know where these classroom based will be held? Because we're down in Somerset.
Absolutely. So Lisa, very good question. And we're coming on to the
Thank
welding
you.
bootcamp in a minute. The welding bootcamp will be run out of Bridgewater Taunton College, I'm pleased to say. So it is South-based. That is the first of the pilot groups. We are looking at see sort of what kind of response we get for the welding bootcamp to see if it validates a northern bootcamp, but it's currently planned for BTC.
Absolutely perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you.
No worries. I don't see another hand go up.
Anna.
Yeah, hi. I just got one quick clarification question first on the timescale. So 21 days over 11 to 12 weeks. Are those 11 to 12 consecutive weeks?
Again, that's going to be really dependent on sort of the engagement with the participants. We're looking, 2020 have been very generous in terms of trying to understand sort of the practicalities of what we need from a participant. If we start this on the 27th of May, most people take holidays in July. So what we will want to do is try and allow for that as best as possible. So we will canvass the participants to see what is the most suitable days for those individuals.
Okay, so it's not necessarily 12 consecutive weeks. It could be planned out over a slightly longer period of time. I think especially if they're coming back into the workplace to try and apply some of it between modules and things as well. Brilliant, thank you. I did have one quick question then about at the end. So does this result in any kind of qualification? And if it does or doesn't actually, does it link into any route to chartership through the APM?
So in answer to your question, the bootcamp itself is not accredited, but there is a certification and it's based on accreditation course work. If it is successful, we will go down the accreditation route, but certainly it is very much linked into some of the details. Now that is only referencing project controls planner, I will add. The welding is very different. We'll come back onto that in a minute. George, I don't know if you want to add any more, or Phil?
Yeah, I can add. Oh, go on, George, do you want to go first? I
was just going to say that the when we base learning within the classroom on best practice, it's 90% of the time it will originate with APM methodology and terminology. So in that respect, it does align with a route to chartership. It's not a defined route to chartership, but it certainly is along the right pathway towards satisfying the knowledge requirement.
Yeah, and just building on that, outside of that, the course will also be aligned to ECITB project controls training standards. So if people decide to further their development by going on something like the level 3 diploma in project controls practice and techniques, for example, there will be a lot of alignment with that. So it will provide a shorter pathway to completion of other qualifications and courses in project controls.
Brilliant. Thank you, Phil. Any other questions?
Let's see, Michael's got his hand up there, Chantal.
Thank you. Go for it.
Good day, everyone. I'm interested to know who your target audience is for taking part in this. What kind of age, what kind of background, what kind of grade in the civil service are you looking for? Like basically, who is your target audience?
A very good question, Michael. I think when we originally started, the endeavour was to try and attract a range of available candidates from the market. But for the purposes of this pilot bootcamp, we're looking to attract either career switchers in industry, so people who are planning to move into the specific field or haven't had chances to. So again, trying to assess whether they have some knowledge of project planning, that would be great. Or somebody who's in industry who's probably new and junior and would like to expand into the specific area to become fairly proficient.
Can I step in at this point and say that I'm conscious of time, and I think it would be good if I know that there are some questions in the chat that we will share and we'll try and get responses to. If any further questions, please can they go into the chat and we will get back to you. But I think we need to move on if we can, please.
Yeah, Mark, could I just interrupt you just briefly, because there's one question that's come up in the chat that I can answer very, very quickly.
Please do.
And so there's a question there about neurodivergence. Within the first session, there is actually a part of that session is devoted to neurodivergence in the workplace. If we can be made aware when people are enrolled onto the course of any needs that they have, we'll try our best to accommodate them. The software we use for presentations tests for presentations that are not suitable for people with neurodiverse conditions. So yes, we're aware of it and we're working very hard around that.
Brilliant. Thank you, George. Right, so I'm now going to hand over to either the Simon Brewer, Sari Davis for the welding bootcamp, which will be led by Bridgewater Taunton College. Guys, do you want to give us a quick overview of what the course is going to be about?
Sure, thanks, Chantal. Thank you. So my name's Simon Brewer from Bridgewater and Taunton College, and I'm just going to run through. Going to be a quick whip through the welding bootcamp, but hopefully you can get the information you need and a little chance for questions. So some of the questions that have been asked already are kind of here on this summary sheet here. So we've got it's a 14-week bootcamp. It's a very practical training program. It's welding at the end of the day. You know, it needs to be practical because I'll talk through what we're trying to achieve with this welding program. It'll be 3.5 days a week commitment, and it starts in the beginning of July, ends in October. We'll come to the dates exactly in a second, just so you're aware. And we will be holding some screening pre-assessments during May, June, depending on how quickly we get the nominations in. It'll be at our Welding Centre of Excellence at Bridgewater and Taunton College in Bridgewater, so it's in Somerset. And you know, what's trying to achieve here? Why would you do this? Well, as Chantal outlined, these boot camps have stemmed from the universally agreed skills gaps that we have in the country. So that's one reason why we're trying to provide another route to upskilling welders to become pipe welders. This is a step along a pathway. We're not pretending that this makes somebody a fully fledged, experienced top pipe welder. This is about a step in the dance that gets them there, and it's free in terms of the training. So why not take advantage of that? It's a great opportunity for some really focused, concentrated, accelerated training for the welding workforce. How will it happen? Well, it will be in our workshop. Very practically based, as I said, but there will be knowledge sessions along the way and behaviours wrapped around this programme as well. Nuclear behaviours, safety culture behaviours wrapped around it. And who is it for? It is for existing welders. So it is about releasing welders from the workplace to undertake this upskilling route. So they will need to have welding experience already. And it's those who you would feel you wish to progress onto pipe welding or improve their pipe welding skills. Next slide, please. There we go. Bit of a busy slide, but I'll whip through this. If we look at the middle there, the outcomes section, ultimately the specification we're working towards is to try and increase the confidence of welders to get to a 9606 pipe butt joint coding. And in terms of confidence, we think the best way to do that is to give them the acid test and put them through the coding. So we are hoping that they will achieve, we're aiming that they will achieve a 9606 coding by the end of this. This is all linked, the knowledge, skills and behaviours are all linked into that pipe welding apprenticeship standard. So I know I've recognised some of the names and Lisa's already spoken. I know you guys will know about that standard, so you know what we're aiming at here. It's not covering all of the bases of that apprenticeship standard, but there's really strong mapping into that apprenticeship standard. So if we go across to the left, you know, the knowledge elements, you can see down the left-hand side, you know, this is engineering and health and safety principles, welding defects, welding processes, weld procedures, purge gases, symbols, positions, drawings, you know, all that you would expect within an apprenticeship the breadth of an apprenticeship, well, that's within this concentrated 14-week program. Again, we're not pretending, we're not trying to suggest this is a replacement for an apprenticeship by any means. That's certainly not what we're doing, but it's covering those bases. There'll be classroom sessions, although most of this will be very practical and in the workshop welding, because that's what's going to get them to that coding standard. There will be an opportunity, they will be expected, to do some reflective reports at the end of each week, and there'll be some good, helpful, supportive, formative, summative assessments along the way. And then we will include some masterclasses as well, and we can be fairly flexible with those masterclasses as well. And then if we move over to the right hand side, where we're looking at the skills, what does this look like? Well, they'll be starting off by doing some carbon steel beads and plate butt welding, just to really get them going on this and give us a chance to do some assessment of their work initially, and perhaps just do a technique work before we move them on to the carbon steel 2-inch pipe butt welding, multi-positional. And then if they really excel in that and they get the coding in the carbon steel, which they'll be given an opportunity to, they can move on to the stainless steel 2-inch pipe as well. And if they're really good, and they get that coding, then we can give them the opportunity to go for a 6-inch carbon steel pipe butt coding as well. So we've layered in the factors, because we're not sure who we're going to get. There's everyone should be able to have a go at the 2-inch, but there's other things there as well. And then underneath it all, you can see at the bottom there is the behaviours. That's a really important part. Our welding centre is currently focused, a lot of their work is focused on the nuclear new build under Office of Nuclear Regulation. That's all been done under ONR, it's a regulated site. So we are aligning the behaviours with the behaviour expectations on that nuclear regulated site. So all of those things you would expect to see. And we've got our own behavioural excellence programme that we deliver to many contractors in the nuclear sector already, which we'll include into this programme. If we go on to the next slide, please, Chantal, that would be great. Thank you. Just a very quick outline plan of what those 14 weeks look like. As I said, there will be a screening process. We need to do that because we need to make sure that the people coming on this program do stand the best chance of getting to a coding. It's a pilot program. Everything we're doing here, we have done with apprentices over a longer period of time. So we know that the process works. What we're trying to do now is an accelerated route for existing welders that we're testing out here. So we want to make sure we'll have some success criteria for that screening process to make sure those guys and gals coming onto this program will stand a very good chance of getting to the point where they can take that coding. The first couple of weeks, you can see at the bottom there on the orange flags, the initial skills loading just for a couple of weeks. That's kind of plate beads and then some plate butt welds. Again, as I said, just to give them a chance to practice, get some feedback on what they're doing and any technique changes that might need to take place that we'll advise them on. And then they'll move into training and the repeat practice on the 2-inch carbon steel pipe welding, the butt welds there. That is what it's all about. It's about honing that so they can lay down really good, consistent welds, good quality, consistent welds in readiness for week 8 to 9, where they will be given the opportunity to take that coding, which will be proper coding, TUV certificated, and that will be that'll be great to get them there. So that's what our aim is on this outline program. By week 8, they'll be doing that. If they're not in a position to do that, we'll keep giving them the opportunity to practice it. They can take that coding at any time, really. And likewise, if they're much quicker, we can bring that forward as well. So once they've done that coding, they can commence training and the practice on the 2-inch stainless pipe, and the same thing again, there's an opportunity for them to do the coding before the end of the 14th week, and we'll be actively encouraging them to do so if they're within their abilities. Along the way, in the yellow flags, you can see we'll have some masterclasses, and if you are nominating, or even if you're not nominating but you've got subject matter experts who you think could add real value to the welders on this programme, we're all ears. We'll happily accept suggestions for masterclasses and accommodate that. We can put masterclasses in anywhere, and we'd be really happy to engage with you if you have subject matter experts there. Underneath all of that, running right across the 14 weeks, there are the knowledge-based sessions and the behavioural elements that will be wired through everything that we do on this programme. Just checking I haven't missed anything there. Last one, thank you, Chantal. So just to give you an idea of the timescales here, we need the welders nominated as early as possible. You know, we want to see those nominations by May. During May, June, we'll be holding the assessment sessions at our welding centre in Bridgewater, and we'll select from those sessions as well and send joining instructions. The bootcamp starts on July the 8th and it will finish October the 10th. That's the time scales. That's kind of what we're looking at. So next steps is definitely, if you've got welders who you want to put through this accelerated upskilling program, please nominate. And Chantal, I'm hoping you'll, well, I don't know if we've actually nailed down the route to nominating them, but we might have to do that in a second so everyone knows. Thank you, folks. That's everything. I've got Lyle and Simon from the Welding Centre here as well to answer any questions, particularly if they're technical, because that's where it flies above my head. That's not Stadler and Waldorf in the picture there. You can see that is Lyle and Simon from our Welding Centre. Thank you.
Brilliant. We'll open the floor. Thank you very much, Simon. That was very, very in-depth. Any questions, team?
I think whilst people are thinking if there are any questions, Chantal, Lisa's point earlier about apprentices, Lisa, we'd really welcome that. That would be good. But I think we need to make sure, similar to the conversations we've had in the past, we just need to make sure we're not tripping over any funded apprenticeship rules along the way. So just need to double check that. Okay.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we'll double check, but at the moment we're in a bit of a quandary because obviously delays, as you know. And
yeah.
We're stuck with them, and it's like, what can you can only give them so much training, 3-day first aid at work training, extra training. We can't bring them on site. We've got no workforce here, so we are really stuck. So I know that Train for All were looking and speaking with Mary Payne, because she'd intimated there may be some further funding available that we're not aware of, because they shouldn't be at detriment because of the delays. And I haven't heard back yet, but yeah, now this. So obviously I'd keep them fully informed, but it sounds fabulous. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Brilliant. I'm glad it's landed at the most opportune time. Fantastic, Lisa. Any other questions from the wider group? Okay,
I must have done a good job, Chantal. I must have done a superb job.
Absolutely. Thank you, Simon. And just to reiterate, so what we'll do following this session is share this slide with you, the webinar as well, for those who prefer a video session. On that, the webinar, on the information I send you, I'll send you a nomination link so you can you can put your participants' names forwards. Please fill out one per participant, please. That would be helpful. And if they've got any specific requirements, please let us know what those are. Okay, and that the cutoff at this point in time. So let me just go back to my next slide. Bear with me. It's gone to sleep. So what we would like to do is get all our participant nominations in by the 8th of May. As you can see, we've got some tight schedules. The PP&C bootcamp, we want to launch sort of week commencing the 27th. For welding, we need to obviously assess those candidates and get them through that assessment day with BTC and schedule those in before they commence their training on the 8th of July. What we will be doing is, once they've completed their bootcamp delivery, is go through a bootcamp evaluation. Clearly, that gives us access to more funding if we get it right, or allows us to make adjustments to the pilots so we can, look at scalability, which is really sort of our next bit of bootcamp. We've done this for the first 4 key skill cadres that we've identified. So health, physics monitor. We will be doing this for safety case author, PPC. and welding, and we've also got the engineering disciplines coming soon. So please watch out. We will be sending that through to you shortly. Any other questions regarding sort of the process? No, fantastic. Thank you all very much for your time and attendance today. Really appreciate the turnout we've had. It's been wonderful. If you do think of something and you want to follow up, please do reach out. I have no problems coming back to you. Thank you very much, everyone. Cheers.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, bye.
Bye.
Bye.